Next up, we're going to go to Southeastern Europe. We're going to Marvin from 500 Startups is going to have a discussion about what the investor environment in Bulgaria is going to be like. I got to meet a number of Bulgarian investors and entrepreneurs when I was here last year at Startup Turkey, and I have to say it's quite a very vibrant entrepreneurial startup environment there. And when I did write a piece in Forbes about Bulgaria's startup scene, and the one thing that I researched and found is because there's always the issue of who invented what, and is baklava Greek or Turkish, and where does kebab come from, and yogurt. And somebody had once told me that yogurt is actually Bulgarian. Now, as a proud child of proud Turkish parents, I just said that's impossible. Yogurt is Turkish. But I actually did research it, and I did find out that it actually originated in Bulgaria, much to the chagrin of probably all the yogurt kings in America who are doing so well now. And I know that people who are probably get hate mail from a lot of Turks who will argue with me, but you can look it up. Marvin, can I ask you to bring you and your panel up, and then you can introduce them?
Great.
A round of applause for our next panelists.
Thank you, dear. All right, guys, you come on up. Okay. All right. Wherever. All right, guys. So as you know, the title of the panel, we're going to talk a little bit about the Bulgarian startup ecosystem, and I think to kick it off, we have a great sort of group of panelists. And so, like I said, not checking my email. These are my questions here. So let me, if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves very quickly, and also talk a little bit about how long you've been involved with the startup, the Bulgarian startup scene, please.
Okay, I start.
Your start, please.
The mic. So I'm Dilan. I'm one of the founders of.
Oops.
Yeah, it's working. I'm one of the founders of 11 Accelerator.
No, not working.
All right.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Well,
Mine is working. Yeah, mine is
okay.
working.
So, okay, go ahead. Please.
Okay. I'm Ljubomir Lekov, and I'm one of the creators of internet publishing market in Bulgaria. Back in 2000, I started my company with $5,000 provided by friends and family. And for a couple of years, I turned into the multi-million-dollar business. And I did the first IPO in Eastern Europe for a technology company called Portfolio. You can get it. No?
Yes, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties. Sorry, guys.
So, is still a problem? No, now it's okay. So, last year I was able to sell the company to a strategic partner for a $12 million valuation. It's not very interesting number, but this gave me opportunity to do what I really love, and I'm inspired to help young people to become successful entrepreneurs. And that's why I'm here. I'm also mentoring Turn 8 Dubai, Tech Picks in Trento, Italy, and also in Lunch Hub in Sofia. So I kind of have a different vision of what entrepreneurs are doing in Eastern Europe.
Oh, great, thank you.
Okay. Test. Okay. My name is Val Babajov. I'm Bulgarian. I also moved to United States 26 years ago. So I've been in software business 35 years total. Now I run a family office investment company called Voivoda Ventures in San Francisco. We have 19 portfolio companies. Also I'm very active angel, member of 5 angel groups, Band of Angels, Sand Hill Angels, Tecos Angels in California. Before that, I sold 5 times for the last 6 years. So this is how I became investor. And in the future, we are raising a new fund called Gate Ventures, 50 million euros. It will be a cross-border fund focused on Eastern Europe and finding good companies, bringing them to California and selling them on the fast market.
Okay, great. Thank you, Val.
Okay, my turn.
Yeah, your turn.
Quick. So, working, right?
Yes, working.
So I'm Dilan. I'm one of the founders of 11. There are 2 accelerator funds in Sofia. One is 11 and the other is Launch Hub. And generally, we do invest in startups in the whole region. We bring them to Sofia, we mentor them. Like Marvin is a mentor, which is awesome. And we've done 57 investments in the last 18 months, so we've been really very active. And that's pretty much what we do. We're looking for talent in Turkey.
All right, great. So let's jump into the first question. So Lubo, you've been a mainstay for the startup system in Bulgaria for a while. How has the scene evolved in the last year, or how have you seen that it's evolved?
Basically, I think it's a big change now. What's happening before, it was a lot of local opportunity. So, but now it's everything. What is doing in Sofia is it's about doing things that will be everywhere around the world. So that's what is the big change, I think, and this is helped because of the two accelerator in Sofia that are making the big change.
So what you're saying, just to make sure I understand, is that the big change in the last year has been the fact that a lot of companies, instead of just looking at Bulgaria as a market, are actually looking at regional or global opportunities. Is that right?
Yes, because Bulgarian markets is so small, the crisis was really hitting everything. Everybody in Bulgaria now that are doing a startup are thinking abroad. No local projects nobody is interested in the local projects at all.
And Val, how are your thoughts, having been involved in both sides of the ocean?
Sure. First of all, it's going great. Between 11 and Launch Hub, we have really exciting situation in Bulgaria. And you guys are welcome to check it out, meet with the guys, and see opportunities for yourself. I personally invited few companies from the incubators on business trips to San Francisco. We're trying to help them to make connections. My extended network in Silicon Valley are their advisors on these startups. So, I mean, it's a really positive change in the startup ecosystem.
Yeah, well, we started 11 and Launch Hub pretty much 18 months ago, so a year and a half. And there was an emerging ecosystem. We had a few events in Sofia, like Startup Weekend and a few others. But it wasn't really much. And then I know Brad Feld says that investors will not be the leaders of the startup communities, but generally we were a catalyst. So we brought in, I mean, we have 150 founders in our fund. Launch Hub has another 100, so 250 people that founded technological startups are now in Bulgaria or have been in Bulgaria in the last year and a half. So it changes a lot. And now these people are forming a community and it's growing quickly. So we are really big on the map right now of Central Eastern Europe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding the same topic, I'd like to add relevant information. I already invited a Turkish startup, which similar, like from Istanbul 3 years ago to our facilities in California. It's a climate minder company founded by Bulut Ersavas. And we successfully sold the company in December 2012. So in my case, I brought first Turkish company, which is showing the whole region kind of has a lot of potential.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question. So one of the advantages or disadvantages is it's a relatively small market, right? So just by nature, you know, very similar to what we see in Estonia or Israel or even sort of some of the Scandinavian countries, you have to think sort of much bigger, hopefully, if you want to grow a venture capital-backed business. It has to be a decent-sized market, right, that you target, so you have to think much larger. What do you think are the advantages? What makes Bulgaria unique as an ecosystem besides sort of what we just talked about? Like what is, as I ask everyone, it's like, what is Bulgaria's edge?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I think the talent of Bulgarians are, I think we are, after the collapse of socialism, become much more open. All young people are traveling a lot, working everywhere around the world. So it's a lot of big change from before. So we have, of course, a lot of IT specialists that are world class. And this is really helping, and we have a very good designers that know how to do so at least there is a very good, let's say, starting point from where we can grow. Yeah. So this is one of the things, but there is
Yeah, and I'm an example. I don't know how familiar you guys, but Bulgaria was a very strong player in the software IT business in the former Eastern Bloc, and government spending $5 billion at this time. I was working, and actually my wife here, partner, we've been working in the biggest software R&D, 4,000 engineers in 1980. And this is one of the reasons the country, has this potential. It's continuing, the education very strong. There are private software universities now. And this is one of the most prestigious jobs in the country. So disregarding the talent, which I agree completely. Regarding the qualities of the people also, same like Turkey, people are very hardworking, kind of the engineers, the software engineers, and high-spirited. They would like to prove that they are the best, and it's happening. Right now, there is example, a very good company, Bulgarian company called Telerik, with only $2 million investment. They built a global company with offices in Palo Alto, with about $70 million revenue, I believe. Yeah, that's 800 people involved, and this only bootstrapped $2 million investment. So it's a good example.
Great. How about your
Well,
view?
I have a little bit different perspective, and I see Bulgarian entrepreneurial ecosystem like having two different kind of periods. One was 10, 12 years ago when most of the service companies emerged, started as sweatshops, and then evolved into kind of service companies. And now I would say this is the renaissance of Bulgarian entrepreneurship. And together with Launch Hub, we are doing what Japan did after the World War II. We take best practices and implement them in Sofia. So right now, and then that set like a standard. So we are investing in very kind of friendly terms for startups, and it sets the tone, and nobody else can ruin the market. So we can do investment much like you do in 500 and Techstars and all these other big accelerators, and we form a community. And I think that basically that community that forms around the two accelerators and the startups that come out of them is actually the edge of Bulgaria, because our startups are not only Bulgarian but international. Like 50% of the companies in our portfolio come from Serbia, Croatia, Romania, you name it. I mean, we have 57 now, so from all over the place. And when they go back, they still stay connected to the family. And then we have network, which is expanding all the time. And I think this is kind of building right now Bulgaria and Sofia as a very good place to do business, because you can connect to, we have people in Y Combinator right now, we have people in Techstars. So all these, kind of organizations and institutions connect to 11 and to Sofia.
I also think one of the advantages is that it's a small thing, but yet at the same time it's not a small thing, is observation, having spent a lot of time in the region. There's a very good command of the English language by a lot of engineers and just actually a lot of young people. And that is actually not to be underestimated, because this is in my view, rightfully, is a challenge in a lot of other parts of in my view, Europe, right? For example, I'll use like Russia, or Ukraine, or even Turkey to some extent, where just even having a command of nuance of the language, of you get the best practices of this thing called the internet. There's a lot of very well-known, very, very smart, experienced people blogging or writing articles and books and things where there's just a lot of knowledge. And if you don't have access to that, that's actually a big missing piece, in my opinion, of being able to interact with people like that, or interact and get the knowledge. And I think that's one of the advantages, actually, what has also been a benefit to Bulgaria. Would you agree?
Yeah, you remember in our company, the official language was English.
Yeah.
Even only one American was in the company, but everybody was using English for everything. All the documents was in English, and I think this helped to change the mentality, because when you're using local language, you stay local. Yeah. So that's why you should use English, even it's not very easy, but that's the only way if you want to be international.
Yeah. I mean, another great example is like Rakuten, right, which is an amazing e-commerce company out of Japan, and they've really globalized in the last couple of years. And one of the reasons just they made English as like the corporate language that you had to actually have to as a business language. And I think that's one of the reasons they've been so aggressive and also expanding and changing the mindset, which I think is really helpful. Yeah. And so we talked about the good stuff. Let's talk about the bad stuff. Like, we all have challenges, right? The Valley has lots of issues. What do you think that sucks about the Bulgarian startup ecosystem?
Yeah, we are disorganized. That's one of the things. We are coming from the south. We are far away from the Germans. And this is one of the things that we really try to put more management. I think I really like to be more organized. That's really is one of the problem that it takes time to change.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Yeah, in my opinion, and same is valid for Turkey. I mean, startups should be more global, kind of looking for the whole world. And because obviously, in this Bulgaria is a small market, Turkey is much larger, but still, I mean, the largest markets are in Silicon Valley or in UK or in Germany. So I believe, I mean, if the objective of a startup is to build a great company and to make money, obviously they gotta focus on the large market. And I mean, they're doing it now, but it should be much more in much more active form.
Yeah, again, doing startups every day, there are two main things we kind of face as a challenge. And one is there is not enough business talent in Bulgaria that knows how to develop a high-tech company. I mean, there is a lot of talent in the technology, like engineers, but then business talent we need to import. So this is one of the challenges, and it's really difficult to tackle. It's going to take a while. The other thing that actually startups face is that there is a gap between what we have as investment and the next round, which is $500,000 to $1 million, and then our startups go out of Bulgaria to seek for that next round. So if to complete the whole ecosystem, we need a few, entrepreneurs being recycled. So start a business, sell it, and then we need a second and third tier of investment, like 500 to $1 million, and then $1 million plus. But it's coming around.
What do you think is the strong suit of the Bulgarian tech scene? Is it more on the B2B side, or is it the consumer side, or is it more B2B sort of business to developer software? Where do you see the strength? Because every market's different, right? I'm curious to get
business developer.
Business.
Yeah, because this is our basically core strength. I think we are weak in e-commerce because the market is so small, so we don't have good example in e-commerce, but we have a lot of good products.
You mean the business-to-business side, right? So, okay.
Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a specialist.
Yeah. And the whole region is so fragmented that business to consumer is really difficult to scale, and people don't really understand it. As if you live in the States, everybody pretty much speaks the same language, other than Texas. So business to consumer is more difficult to comprehend fully and to grow it, while business to consumer is more kind of intuitive.
Okay. So I always try to leave. I think we have a couple minutes left, so we should. Is that right? You have a couple minutes left? Okay. So I think what I'd like to do is always try to leave something of just for the audience. So hopefully this has been somewhat helpful or interesting for the audience. But I want to make it practical. It's like, what advice would you give to the Turkish ecosystem or to any entrepreneurs out there? Both, as all you guys are all entrepreneurs yourselves, would love to hear your views. And what do you look for as an investor, or what is advice or feedback you give to startups that you've seen here?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that you should have a dream what you want. It's not about the money. You should have a real problem that you really want to solve. So it's not, I am looking for this amount of money. It's never working this way. I hear many times, I'm looking for this amount of money. But that's not you should say, I want to solve this problem that will make the people much more happy. So this is what I really believe. I started my company in this way. I never have a problem to collect money. A lot of people wanted to help me, so I think through the years I collect something like $3 to $4 million. I never have a problem finding money. Of course, it was not easy to explain, but this is because I never go directly to pitch. Always some friend was introducing me, so I'm telling to every entrepreneur, find people that like what you do and they want to make money with you. So this is it. Dream and people will follow.
I'd like to focus on the special relationship between the investors and CEOs, the founders of the companies. I mean, we looked at 3,000 companies with 5 full-time professionals per year, and we invest in 19, like for 2 years. So the relationship is very important, and it's based on promise. The entrepreneur comes to the investor and promise that for certain amount of investment, he will deliver, certain results for period of time. And this is your agreement. I gotta be iron. Like, I gotta deliver. If you don't deliver, something is wrong. They're not gonna invest again. Yeah. And obviously, other investor will check with the first investor if it's a good deal. So this is very important. You gotta decide how much to promise. If you promise too much, you're in trouble because you're not going to be able to deliver. If you promise very little, the investor doesn't want to deal with you because at the end of the day, investors work, their mentality is to make money. Not kidding, okay? Yeah. This is what they're here, to make money, to make early stage investor 3, 5x, VCs 10x, okay? So this is the core relationship, or 100.
Yeah.
So this is the core relationship between the founders and the investors, and got to be very well structured.
Okay, great. Thank you, Will. Over yourself.
Well, I don't have too much advice. I'm not that smart. But what I found out investing in very early stage investors is that if this is your comfort zone, this is where everything interesting happens. So in order to make something different and something big, the first step is to move out of your comfort zone and start before you're ready. So, this is where our best startups succeed. They do something out of the ordinary. They do something out of the beaten track. And generally, that's where really great results come from. So my advice, get out of your comfort zone and do something different.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess I'll, sort of my small piece is just, I get a lot of cold pitches and calls. And the biggest thing is just, it's not necessarily just about the money, and a lot of people heard me say this already, is that I think if you're looking for money, it's money and the people attached to it. Make sure there's some level of chemistry for you startups. Make sure that someone who comes to the table, that they have some expertise in the area of their business, so they can help you and give you guidance, or at least try to help you, or at least there's some chemistry there. Don't take money just for the sake of taking money. Unfortunately, so you feel like you need it, but I think like it's very, very important. The investor relationship, as Val said, the investor relationship and the startup founder is actually incredibly important. And if you, it's like a wedding, it's like a marriage. And if you have a bad marriage, it's especially on the investor side, it's usually the investor that wins most of the time, right? But at the end of the day, nobody wins. Yes. If you don't have a good situation. So please keep that in mind. It's actually more than just the money you're looking for. And so I think on that note, I think we're done, right? So I think.
Anybody have any questions from the audience?
Questions? Nima? No? Yeah, so you put up your hand. Come on, man. Cold calling you. What's your question?
So Val, you've built a development shop in Bulgaria that you sold. How do you find that to work nowadays with companies having to be in the valley and yet wanting to save money because they can't hire engineers? What do you see as far as the opportunities in the different ecosystems, including Turkey? Because I hear there's a lot of technical talent in Ankara, and how do you connect that to Silicon Valley?
Yep, this is a good question, and maybe you're aware the salaries of engineers in Silicon Valley are skyrocketing, and obviously the startups in Silicon Valley, they have to have cheaper, more affordable engineering, which is a very difficult process. Yeah. So I've been mastering this for about 26 years, and it's not easy, but this opportunity for Turkey also, like in Bulgaria, obviously they're good talent, and it could be used in world-class startups. The question is about the trust of the American companies, CEOs, founders, to really believe and build a development team here. This usually happens when you have Bulgarian professional in Silicon Valley that is running teams, or Turkish. In my case, actually, Climate Minder, they had engineers here, and they still work for the buyer, okay? But this is very important, and it's important to save money on the startup because the money you're raising are not enough. Never going to be enough. So you gotta be cost efficient, and it's a good way to bring this ecosystem and Bulgarian ecosystem up because there's a good talent here and in Bulgaria.
No, great question. Thank you. All right. So I think that's it. So
Great.
Thank you panelists.
Round of
Thank you,
applause.
guys.
Thank you so much. So interesting.